ride that I designed. So I've tickled all your tailbones is a good way of putting it. Anyway, all I've really done is take the technology that was developed for decades in the amusement industry and applied it to the wind turbine industry. For example, Ferris wheels. Ferris wheels do not use a gearbox in the center. There are thousands of Ferris wheels in the world. They all are rim driven. As we speak, in fact, next week they're going to open a largest Ferris wheel in the United States in Myrtle Beach. It will have rubber tire drives driving on the rim. So this is a total new technology, a total different way of building the wind turbines. It allows these wind turbines to be built in non-specialized factory. In other words, the welding can be done in current local welding shops. The blades can be made in a boat or any fiberglass shop. The weight of the blades is about 20% of the weight of the blades of the current technology out there. Bottom line is we're cutting the cost of the wind turbine in about half. As you can see, there is no gearbox. 80% of all the problems on wind turbines are in the gearboxes, and they're very expensive. On a typical 1.5 megawatt wind turbine, they can only get one gearbox on a semi-trailer. That's how big they are. That's how much they weigh. Well, there, I get the slide to go. The other huge advantage is the fact that these things can get much, much larger than current technology. Think of wind turbines, you have to use blades to get efficiency. And there's only two things that counts on the amount of electricity you get. That's the amount of area that your turbine, in other words, how big in diameter the wheel is, and how much wind you have. So with this technology, we can get much, much bigger in diameter. As we speak, opened this year in China is a 680-foot diameter Ferris wheel. Far, far bigger than any wind turbine in the world. This means more electricity per wind turbine. Also, these things the blades can be made in sections so they can go down the highway without trying to move a 150-foot blade down the highway, which is very, very expensive. It also makes it much easier to install the wind turbines. But as you can see, the gearbox does not exist. Right here, these are semi-truck tires hooked directly to the generators that produces the electricity. No gearbox. You could go down the highway without all that extra expense. There's no setup crane except for the tower itself, which is usually done by separate companies, even with current wind turbines. There's no cantilevering on the blade. Again, that makes the blade weight 1/5 of current technology, and that gives you two huge advantages, or three advantages. One, you don't have to have the specialized winding machinery to make the big blades. You don't have the cost, and fiberglass is based on petroleum. It's gotten very expensive, so you cut down that. But also, a huge advantage is the whole blade is an ideal shaped airfoil rather than being compromised by being a fat structure. Again, extreme diameter. Another thing that's very different, a blade is made for a given wind speed. You design it for, let's say, 15-mile-an-hour wind. Well, you vary the pitch of the blade as the wind changes speed. Let's say it goes up to 20 miles an hour. But at 20 miles an hour, even with the variable pitch, all of the leading edge is not at the ideal angle of attack. So you're not getting perfect efficiency. Well, instead of varying the pitch from the center, I actually use it's like a little hydraulic cylinder. It's electric. It's a linear actuator. I twist both of them together to change just the pitch, but I twist one a little bit more than the other, and that twists the blade, and I keep the whole leading edge at the ideal angle of attack. In other words, this airplane wing is flying with its maximum efficiency. And the other advantage, you could job this thing out to many small companies. You have much shorter production time. Here's an offshore version for For the first time, here is the possibility of putting a wind turbine far offshore. You get out, say 20 miles, you're away from the bird migratory routes, you're out of sight of land, and that's where the wind is really good. I can put them on a barge, which now they do not have the technology. I have 8 patents. Some have been issued, some are still pending on this. But I can put this out there and make very large. Now I put 2 on a barge. The reason is I have them counter-rotating so that the gyroscopic effect does not want to turn the barge. So I simply let the barge go downwind from the anchor. I don't show it today, there's not time, but I have a way of this staying in a very small area, even if you're in mile deep water. The other huge advantage, well, this shows you a little bit of the size, that's a person. Here's your tire and gearbox. Again, I designed carnival amusement rides. They've got to tear down and move every week. In 4 hours, this wind turbine can go from being up in the air down to flat. A tugboat comes out and takes it away. Why do you do this? Hurricanes. You get a projection of half of the path of a hurricane. You disconnect 2 lines. 1, your anchor line. 2, I call it your extension cord, which is your electrical output line. And in 4 hours, from the time the boat pulls up, this thing can be moving out of the path of the hurricane. You go at right angles to the hurricane. A day or 2 after the hurricane passes through, you come back up and you hook up your 2 lines and you're back in business. There are no offshore wind turbines in the United States right now. One problem is it's too deep in California and the West Coast. This allows deep water anchoring. You don't have it on the East Coast. One big reason is the cost of insurance. If a hurricane were to follow the coastline of eastern United States, and we had a lot of offshore wind turbines, there is no wind turbine that can handle a hurricane. It would take them all out. It would be 6 months to a year or more before they got them back in operation. These you simply pull out of the way and pull back. Another huge advantage is you can go into shore when it needs any maintenance. Also, the thing gets built on shore and you don't have to have the support vehicles to set it up, because you build it on shore, you take it out, in 4 hours you're hooked up and you're operating. This is, in the future, anybody interested, I explain this, but this replaces the generator. This is actually the generator, this is the stator, this is the rim of the big wheel. The rim has wiring in it, and this is actually an air bearing, an airbag. What that does, it keeps the stator very close to the rim, even though the wind is swaying the whole wheel a little bit. And this is the next generation, in which there's no contact between the stator and the rotor, but they only ride a few thousand inch apart. It's called an air bearing. So this, and I have a patent already issued on this, this will really simplify the generation in the future, because maintenance out in the ocean is a huge problem. This still needs some prototyping. You build on shore, no insulation vegetables, get out of the way of a hurricane, goes in very deep water where the wind's best, and you can do your maintenance in port. What I'm looking for, I've already licensed a company in Wichita to build up to 1 megawatt. And the 1 megawatt size wind turbine is used, up to that size, is what they call community. People who buy these usually buy one for their own use. It might be a business, a ranch, or whatever. And they are basically making retail electricity. Everything over 1 megawatt normally goes to the grid. And they rarely, for example, GE rarely sells 1 wind turbine. They will sell 50 or 100 to go to the wind farm bought by Duke Power or one of the big investment firms. Okay, so I've already licensed a company. They're going into production this year. They've already got all their engineering complete to build the under 1 megawatt, which is about 200 feet diameter of the wheel. Above that, I'm looking for a company that wants to take that to the next phase. And I haven't really offered it yet because this is very, very brand new technology.